No one gonna do anything. You know why? All your teammates is a bunch of.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Manel Cobb.
Stalled. So I was just this like weird teenager deadlifting 4 plates. Like basically when I almost just had recently walked into the gym, and then I didn't set a PR on a deadlift for like legitimately half a decade. I think I was in my like mid 20s when I finally set an actual PR on it. It was weird. It was
That
also
is
because I was
weird.
like lifting wasn't my main thing,
Right, yeah, you were more
right? Yeah,
fighting focus.
but still, it was like I was improving the squat. I was improving the deadlift bit by bit.
I mean,
I
dude,
was improving the
435 for,
dead from
I
the
mean,
squat. But
your max was probably darn close to 500. I mean, you had to be like 99th percentile at that age.
yeah, I definitely. I mean, like I've told you prior, um, I was definitely gifted with a lot of strength. But I also like, keep in mind, like I'm around all these people that are also like me all the time, so it doesn't feel like that all the time. But when you compared me to like average kid walking around, we were not the same. Um,
Isn't
but I
that such
got
a
good at
funny
coaching them at
concept,
the same
though?
time.
It's like whatever you're surrounded by. Like I have to check myself, like with jujitsu, for example, as well, where it's like, and it's like I know I'm objectively good, and yet like because I'm always comparing up, like both like my coach who's multiple time ADCC vet, and then like modernly like looking at these guys like Gordon Ryan, Nicky Rod, and Craig Jones. I'm like, fuck, man, like these guys would fucking kill me, and that is true, and yet I would kill 99% of people. Like not
Yeah, dude,
wouldn't be
exactly.
close.
We've said this prior, but it's like it's kind of like when you're watching like the NFL or you're watching the UFC and you're like, oh, this dude sucks. And it's like, no, he actually doesn't suck at all. Like he would
Yeah, right.
actually
That's like
murder everyone you've ever met with like the flick of his
yeah.
fingers.
Yeah, it's like we've ripped on so many fighters and like all in good fun, and it's like, dude, and like I know it's like it's actually like an active meme that's been fired up lately. I've seen on Twitter and whatnot. Like, is MMA a real sport? It's like, yeah, I mean, it's obviously in its infancy. Objectively, they don't pay the fighters enough, so they're not going to be poaching. Uh, as like Hitman and I have said before, like they're not going to be poaching the next generations. Tyreek Hill or whatever
Yeah.
until they have the opportunity to earn Tyreek Hill money to fight,
Yeah,
right? So
exactly.
that just is what it is. But even putting that aside, um, yeah, by the UFC is big enough and is attracting enough serious athletes. Tons of form. Take wrestling for example. Like if you were a collegiate champion, your path to like monetizing that skill set is MMA.
Oh
So
yeah. That
there's
I
my
will
point is
say
there's
that is
just
the thing
serious
where
talent.
that is the thing though, if you happen to get into wrestling as a child, for whatever reason that just happened to be the sport you liked, then you will be de facto getting into MMA as your professional arena. Whereas,
That or you're just doing something completely different, which is fine. But like
yeah,
there is no, yeah, like if you were a stud baseball, basketball, football player, there's literal professional leagues for that. But for wrestling, there's not. Therefore, it is and it also happens to be, I would argue, the best. Like if you're starting with one extremely skilled martial art, so to speak, I like gun in my head, I have to pick wrestling as like the base skill set to like build everything else around.
yeah, I've obviously I've yapped about it enough. We're on the same page there, and I will say, obviously, like there's an argument to be made where it's like, all right, if someone started MMA at a young age, that would be the best. Although I think there's an argument to be made that that wouldn't be the case too, potentially. Um, but the only people that seem to outdo like wrestlers are actually these Russian guys who have been doing sambo, which is like wrestling, except it's really just MMA. It's the only people that have been outdoing the success of the base of wrestling itself, like a folk style wrestling, freestyle
Yeah,
wrestling.
it's effectively MMA, more MMA inclined form of wrestling
Yeah,
that
it's
is some
MMA and a gi.
only a gi top, funny enough.
Yeah, only a gi top and underwear. So it's like the you know what I mean? So it's like the only thing that's beating training in a singlet as a kid is training in a pajama top and a thong.
I mean, it's so true. Yeah, because they're um again, it's the edge over both wrestling and jujitsu, where it's like they are operating from position to position with strikes in mind.
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
where,
They're navigating it. They're navigating it from that lens for sure.
so therefore, some takedowns are non-optimal, and then especially when you get into like the way sport jujitsu's like, evolved in like cool ways, sure, but it's like some of the stuff that has developed in sport jujitsu are just, they're actually just negatives, like things you just can't do, or if you try it, you get your head just punched through the canvas because you're trying to do it. Like deep half guard, for example, deep half guard, like that'd be like, okay, please try to get the deep half guard. I'll elbow your skull in. Good luck.
Yeah, well,
Um,
dude, I honestly was saying this. I was saying this the other day too. I think one of the most like valuable and underrated formats of jujitsu that should be more popular is the combat jujitsu format. Like you sparring, like
absolutely.
yeah, rolling with strikes, I think is actually, and the strikes you don't have to be actually hitting each other. You can shadow
Yeah,
strikes
you
to the
could be
head.
just. It's funny. He's actually an older guy. He's like probably in his like mid 40s, but he'll just like, and he's on one of these kicks right now where like Friday open mat, he comes in, and if you're training with him, he just play. He's like, hey, I'm training like the strikes today. I don't want you to like actually like tee off on my head. I want you to show me where the strikes would be. So it's like I'm basically like
Exactly. Yeah.
tapping him, like, yep, this arm's free. So I get, so that's building that awareness around like, oh, just because I already used an example, but like if you tried to go to deep half guard, you would get yourself killed in
Yeah.
MMA or
Yeah.
obviously therefore
Exactly.
street
Yeah.
rules.
Well,
Right.
it's like fighting, dude. It's like fighting against modern weapons or against firearms with the type of formations and tactics that people used 300 years ago. It's just like, hey, you can't line up like that. This is how wars are fought anymore. And that's what happens
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes when people use.
we're gonna march Roman style and
Yeah, like the
rows and rows.
testudo isn't working when we have MG 42s. So it's like the the approach with a lot of sport jujitsu stuff, while that can still be valuable in terms of martial arts, in the context of MMA, it's like you need to be. I just think you need to be rolling with strikes. And to be honest, I think if you really want your grappling from just like an existential point of view, you should have some rounds where you're like, let's grapple with strikes. Why wouldn't I do it? I don't have to hit you at all. I'll just shadow the strikes, show you where they're at. You can touch the body lightly. Like, if you just start training with that in mind, dude, I think it would legitimately evolve the sport a lot, and it would evolve the way people grapple in a much more applicable way. And the funny thing too is like jujitsu prided itself 30 years ago on being like for self-defense and everything like that. So the ethos of jujitsu itself, if it doesn't want to make dojo itself too much, which is always a risk at for like that for something like that to creep up on a martial art. no matter how like legit you are at one point. I think it's important that they're like, we need to keep this aliveness in it. And I think a step for aliveness would be like, we're gonna roll without putting the constraint of like, oh, but you can't hit me. And it's like, well, that's the main thing I'm worried about with an assailant. Like, I'm not like, no one, people aren't worried about getting mugged in the street. Not really mugged, but people aren't really worried about their, like a bully at school tackling you and then passing your guard and then putting you in an armbar.
Oh no, he passed my guard.
Yeah, and it's not worried about that. They're like, there's this kid at school that punched me in the face. Like, I need to prevent that from happening, and I need to be able to, choke him out in front of the girls so that he can actually get laid.
The McDojo comment is relevant, and I actually think jujitsu's at the like crossroads of that, where I think inevitably, because it's like quite popular now, like way more popular, way more accessible than it was like when we were coming up, right? Like when we were in high school and stuff, like you had to be in a major city or whatever, right? Now, pretty much any like decently populated suburban town's gonna have a gym around, which is good. Like I like that it's getting popular, but with that comes the McDojo, which is like just shamelessly seeking profits. And then it's like the unspoken part is that it becomes a little bit of pay to play or pay to get your belts or whatever. And then that
Yeah.
slowly but progressively like dilutes things where you're like, a black belt? Who get this man black belts?
Yeah. Brother. Who give this man, brother?
Brother, this man no black belt.
So where is Hitman?
I am here.
He's just listening to us ramble.
I was trying to tell you guys that I just ordered some Arby's. They got the meats. Pause.
Hitman's watching the
Hitman's
debate.
he's always
No, no,
getting the
no,
beef.
no.
He's
No,
always getting the
I put
beef.
the debate away. Um,
Yeah, Hitman loves those sausages, man.
Let it be
yeah.
known that Hitman uncovered his love for Arby's on this podcast.
Hey,
Yeah, that
bro,
is
I
true.
just keep ordering that one thing that I ordered before, that Greek. Gonna mispronounce it. You
Gyro.
guys are gonna hate me. The gyro.
Yeah. The
Oh
gyro.
man, you just deeply offended hybrid.
I had a gyro the other day.
That's how you guys pronounce it, gyro.
Yeah, it's almost like a low sounding Y. It's like yeah, gyro.
Gyro.
Yeah, there you go. Pretty well done.
But yeah, we got UFC 306. Fucking Sean O'Malley, MERAB. Um,
Yeah,
That's also my best attempt at his last name.
we got Alexa
we get
Grasso.
so drunk when we're trying to say these names, to be honest. And
Let him
I won't
finish
lie,
talking.
I'm actually pretty good with pronouncing names and languages in my experience. But even these get me, man. These Caucasian names, they're tough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Honestly,
All
I
right.
think Marab's last name might intimidate me the most. To be
Let's kick
honest.
this off. Let's kick this off with Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez. We watched a little bit of Diego Lopez the other day and some Brian also. What do you guys think?
Yeah, actually pretty excited for this one. Interesting clash here. I think when we were watching tape, I think kind of dawned on me where I felt like this is a bit of Brian Ortega brings, I'm gonna call it like the old school Gracie jiu-jitsu approach to his grappling, where Diego Lopez is kind of like this like more modern iteration of jiu-jitsu for MMA, like uh very tenacious, very rapid transitions and like just hunting for, Darces and really whatever. So fundamentally, what's like that is the most exciting skill clash for me is the grappling. So I hope we get to see some good grappling exchanges. But of course, this is MMA. Everything starts on the feet. On the feet for these two fellas. Also similar but different. Where I think they both like Brian Ortega. It's been, I think, well, he's been so low activity due to injuries. So I'm gonna put the timeline aside here, but he has some pretty big time uh, KOs himself. Like, I think he killed Frankie Edgar years ago, and I can't remember who else. But nonetheless, point I'm getting at is these guys actually both have decent offensive potency. What I think is different about them as in this domain as well, I think Diego Lopez is a bit more, he's more active, more mobile. Like he's kind of, he's a little frenetic even with like his movement bouncing around, just like constantly ripping at you. Like he's looking to punish you with every shot, and he could do some good damage. Um, but I think they're both hittable, but I like Lopez a little bit more on the feet.
Oh, this event is being held at the Sphere.
I heard Dana
Just
say there's
realized.
going to be a movie or
Yeah.
movies between fights, whatever that means.
Damn,
Haptic
what are you
seating.
about to watch Transformers? Between the what the fuck, bro?
Yeah, Sean O'Malley's going to turn into a
Autobots.
fire engine.
It's just gonna be Optimus Prime speech, like the last Optimus Prime's last speech at the end of Transformers One. That would be legit though. Um,
Pretty hype.
but yeah, this fight, the way I saw it, I think Diego Lopez is gonna dominate on the feet. Brian Ortega is too hittable for some reason.
He's slower.
Um, slower, more hittable.
Slower footwork and just operates slower.
The guard is just not really there. Um, yeah, so I'm just gonna give that to where the contention is gonna be the grappling. I believe Ortega might is better. Am I correct?
I don't think it's a simple answer. I think if you're looking at like the, again, like the old school, like the pure, like, oh, whose guard is better? Probably Ortega's. Whose armbar is better? Probably Ortega's. But like the way Diego Lopez applies his jiu-jitsu, I think is more potent, more effective, specifically in MMA. Like he
I
he brings his grappling to you. Like he'll try to like jab up top, hook to the body, get an underhook, try to throw you, and then immediately shooting a darce the moment you hit the ground.
the thing is when someone's as experienced as Ortega, does that negate a lot of that? That's where the contention is gonna be for me.
Yeah, I hope we get some like pure grappling exchanges. By pure, I mean like takedown into, okay, now it's grappling versus grappling, as opposed to, which I think is probably the most likely way it gets to the mat, is like one of them cracks the other one, and then whether it's they drop the other one or rocks them and then shoots a takedown. So think like for example, like Islam and Charles. The first round, they uh, it gets to the ground, but like the actual grappling exchanges on the ground was pretty dead even. Like like Islam didn't do a lot of damage, didn't like pass guard or anything. But then how does the Islam ends up winning by arm triangle set up by dropping Charles. So he rocked him, dropped him, passed his guard when he's seen Tweety Bird, and then finished him. I think that's the most, like either of these guys will try to get it to the ground more, like Lopez will force that envelope a little bit more, but I think both of them will want to stand and exchange and then just uh, get to the ground if it gets there.
Yes, these guys are not like wrestling majors or anything. Um, so yeah, you might have a point there. Um, but yeah, I'm just curious because when we're looking at these fights, we're analyzing humans also, and not just the martial arts. We're like, does Diego even engage on the ground with Ortega out of just fear of who he is and how many people he submitted,
I
which
don't
is also a thing.
I don't think it'll like this is me more making an approximation of like who I think Diego Lopez is and like his like approach and behaviors I've seen from him. I think he's the type of guy that's like, yeah, good. I want to grapple with the best. I'm not backing down.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess for me, I could see Diego not getting submitted and is outstriking Ortega. I can also see like Diego's try some dumb shit and then boom, he gets caught in a submission. I always see that. I just see
I
that
think he can
outcome.
overextend himself. Um, again, he's a. This thought just dawned on me. This wasn't premeditated at all. Diego Lopez is kind of from like a meta perspective. He's kind of like Hamzat with a jujitsu basis instead of a wrestling basis, and by that I mean like he comes at you like a house on fire, like with he doesn't have the imposing wrestling, but like he comes out, tries to march you down. He's ripping like hard kill shots, like hooks to the body. He's kind of wild actually, and then he's like trying to like get a fast finish. But with that, like he was fucking up Dan Ige big time the first round, less so the second round, and then he loses the third round. You know, kind of burns himself out. Not the most defensively minded fighter, and when he's not, fresh, he's yeah, he can overextend and be vulnerable. So I could see the type of thing where like, yeah, Diego Lopez looks really good. Yeah, he looks faster, lands bigger shots, and you walk out of round one like, wow, like he's clearly the better fighter. But then I could see Ortega like weathering that first round into second round storm, and then Diego Lopez is tired. He's not as potent as he was. Then Ortega catches Lopez. It gets to the ground, and then he guillotines Lopez or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're this like as a summary of it. What we're basically describing is Lopez has, and this is what we saw when we were studying the film. Lopez has offensive potency because he's pretty he's not too bad at shot selection. He has a few movements where he sees openings, he adapts his combinations so he can kind of go in. And because he feels offensively potent, I think he also feels offensively confident. And so he'll kind of send it after those openings and can get into these small scrambles because he feels confident in his offense. And so he's not as responsible with his defense. At least that's how it appears. And so he is hittable. The the problem with that is it's not that Ortega is really a striking risk like at all. It's that Ortega is also not a good striker and not even a tremendous wrestler, but actually is because he of the way he is savant like with the submissions and getting into these positions with grappling. It's really scrambles where I think Ortega is dangerous. And because he's tough and kind of durable, he can he can survive a bunch of scrambles and a bunch of failed scrambles and a bunch of failed striking exchanges and create a scramble even late in the fight and get a submission. He really is the guy with submissions that's much like a knockout artist. All you have to do is make one mistake. You can just make one mistake against Ortega and he will submit you. Even if there's just blood all over his face and he's been getting bombarded. So you really can't count him out because of the toughness, which toughness is semi just synonymous with having bad defense. But it basically means, is Lopez going to be on point for the full length of the fight, multiple rounds over and over the whole time and outclass him without making a mistake and getting submitted? Or is he going to get into a scramble and potentially or KO him? And I'm not necessarily sure he will do that. So I kind of feel like what we might end up seeing is Lopez landing his shots, kind of taking over and kind of beating up Ortega a little bit until Ortega starts getting these scrambles. And that scramble could happen in the first round and could end up being a first round finish for Ortega because of that. Just because neither of these guys are the most neither of these guys basically protect themselves, if that makes sense. They're just offensively they're almost synonymous with each other with striking and grappling, if that makes sense. If you know what I mean. Like
I understand
Ortega
what you
finds
mean.
openings for submissions and Lopez finds openings for strikes.
I understand what you mean. Both guys have zero defense when it comes to striking. Uh, yeah, and so it just makes for an interesting match. I think Lopez wins that exchange because he's just his shot selection is better, like you said before. Um, but yeah, but it's kind of a tough match to like see the outcome of, because it seems so like it's just a very fickle kind of thing. Sure, like you can kind of see Ortega getting submission. You can also see Lopez just, but since he doesn't have wrestling, he can't impose his position. Sometimes, where if Jacob Lopez has enough grappling to just not engage in that, he can just keep it on the feet, and he should win those exchanges. I think.
I think Lopez will win the
Yeah.
I think Lopez will win the striking exchanges consistently. It's just that when it comes to finishing and like actually winning the fight, we're either going to win through a decision, submission, or knockout. And
Exactly.
so it's like I don't think Ortega will win a decision. Most likely, he'll win by submission, which means Lopez is the favorite to win either by decision or by KO.
Yep.
So the question is, if he's going to win by decision, it means he has to be disciplined for every single round and win his striking exchanges without getting into a grappling exchange, most likely. Or he needs to finish Ortega, and that's kind of difficult to do. People don't really finish Ortega.
He's never
Um,
been truly finished.
yeah,
He got doctor stoppage when Max fucking just
yeah.
turned his
Literally,
face
he
into
didn't.
meatloaf.
They just officially decided the fight was over against his will. Like, it's not even like he was out, even though he was clearly getting beaten and needed to happen. I don't think Lopez is necessarily going to do that to him. Um, so I think what we'll end up seeing is it's on Lopez to have the right footwork and distancing. And I actually think that his distancing is pretty decent. It just depends on if his ring craft is good enough to keep Ortega's hands off of him for each round, which is I think is going to prove to be challenging. Um, because Ortega's not good at cutting off the cage, but he does seem to be okay at initiating clinches in scrambles, like I mentioned. And is I'm not sure Lopez is necessarily. You know what? I'm not going to say I'm not sure. In a doubtful way, I'm very 50-50 on if Lopez is going to be able to strike him and break, or if he'll oblige him.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting. That being said, you guys want to give your percentages? I think I give Lopez 55.55555%.
Repeating, of course.
Yes. What is that shit when you put on the numbers when it keeps going? The little line you put on top of
The,
the
the
number.
line above it. Yeah, what
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that called?
Forgot, bro. Anyway, that I give him a chance, because I feel like he has more ways to win. Whereas Ortega, I feel like a win is probably going to be through a submission. That's why I'll favor Lopez over Ortega. But yeah, but the submission threat is obviously huge, and you guys know you get to a point where you get tired, and somehow you end up in a submission. So
Yeah,
that'll be
I
kind
will.
of
I will say. I mean, I think this is worth mentioning. The only people that Ortega's lost to are Holloway and Volkanovski, and technically he had kind of like a weird loss against Yair the first fight, but then he choked him out the second one. So it's like
Yeah, I think he busted his knee or something.
it was like I think he hurt
Or
his
shoulder.
arm or shoulder. Yeah, he hurt something in his upper body. But I actually, to be honest, I like Lopez, but for me, I'm feeling. Is this a 3-round fight?
Yeah.
if it's a 5 round, I might change my mind. 3 round,
Yeah, 5 round.
okay.
I would favor
I go
Ortega.
heavy Ortega. Yeah.
I'm pretty. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm pretty. In a 3-round fight. I'm honestly gonna say kind of a toss up for me. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. But that's why I just gave 55 because
yeah,
it
I
was
know.
hard to.
Kind of a toss up for me. If I'm gonna give my pick on softly, who I think might have a small edge, um, ugh, that's actually really tough. I keep doubting myself this whole time, but I don't. My gut is weirdly saying Ortega is gonna be able to sneak in a submission. But 3 rounds make me not as confident about that. I'm truthfully 50-50. Um, but maybe I think maybe I'll give it 55 Lopez. I think that Lopez should be able to pull off 3 rounds and being
Yeah, three
disciplined.
rounds. Now, if it was 5 rounds and people start getting tired, I think you might have some issues here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would expect a 3 to 5 round submission.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
dude,
yeah.
it's not even just getting tired physically. It's like there's just way more exchanges for you to have to not
Yeah,
screw
way
up
more
in.
chances. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the problem with that's Ortega's whole career. I mean, the funny thing is if we didn't have two of MMA's goats currently dominating featherweight the last 5 years, like Ortega would be the champion.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. Not even probably. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, he would be.
Dude, don't forget he had Volk dead to rights twice.
Oh, yeah. That could, bro, God saved, bro. God saved.
Yeah,
Yeah,
literally. That's
yeah,
true.
he phoned a friend and it was our Lord and Savior
Our
Jesus
Lord and
Christ.
Savior. Bro, that was crazy. He's like, I'm just
I don't
gonna
know
wiggle
which
and
was,
wiggle and wiggle and wiggle and wiggle. Fucking
bro.
hopefully
I
I get out,
honestly,
bro.
I don't know which is crazier. Is the crazy thing, right? Like, he had a tech, and Ortega's like triangle is like I think I've heard he himself or his coaches say like he has a clinical triangle, and he had Vulcan a textbook triangle, and yeah, I don't know. Jesus Christ himself just empowered Volk.
I just
So
think you
like
have maybe a certain head shape, no neck, less
he definitely
neck.
got the thick neck thing going for him. Dude, the other one is he had a mounted guillotine on Volk
Yeah,
that
Yeah.
was like
Yeah,
the
that
most
was the big one.
diabolical. Yeah, I've heard Volk say afterwards he was just like, yeah, I wasn't gonna tap. So
Well, the funny thing about that, bro, is Ortega. How many times do you think Ortega's thought about that?
oh dude, probably every fucking day when he wakes up.
Yeah, he's just like, dude, I know what I'm doing. I don't
Jimmy, yeah,
understand
for
how I
sure.
didn't get him.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You're just like this stupid fucking little guy.
This
Like, you
fucking
know what I mean? This fucker.
Or maybe
Like
you
this.
just feel relief after that fight. You're like, bro, I gave everything. It
Yeah, I
just
guess
was,
so.
yeah, and you're like, well, I don't think you can come out of that fight like, maybe I should have squeezed harder. It's like, nah, I think that was it. I did.
Yeah,
I
well,
think it
it's
just fucking
something you
didn't work.
ponder. I don't know what his
Yeah,
feeling. I don't know
yeah,
what his
yeah, yeah.
feelings are. I'm just saying. I think it's something that he definitely ponders. But dude, literally, like it was like a fucking Batman movie, bro. Volk just like, oh, he's got him, and it's like, no, last second he just sneaks his way out of it, saves the day. Everyone's like, how the hell did he beat the Riddler? And it's like, you know what I mean? Like that's how that felt, bro. Um, but I think like Brian Ortega. You know what? I'm picking 55 Ortega
hell yeah,
because
go for
because
it.
It
you
could
know
go
why.
either way, honestly.
Yeah, you know why I'm just softly going Ortega is because my gut told me. I don't know why I got that premonition before the Dreykus fight, and I was like Dreykus late fight submission, and now my gut is telling me the same thing with Ortega, so I'm just gonna go with it. It's a
I
toss
think
up anyway.
betting on either guy is fine. Like for
Yeah,
me, like
we're basically saying it's 50-50.
essentially, yeah. Go ahead, Kakashi.
Just quick on the betting lines. Ortega is the dog at plus 145. So if our collective opinion here is effectively a coin flip, that would be the better money making bet. That said, I am gonna go Lopez. I'll go. I was thinking 55-60, somewhere in that range. I'm saying that because I think he's the guy. We already said more past the victory. I think he's more potent on the feet. So if no one finishes the fight, I think he will almost certainly do more damage. I'd be very surprised if this goes to the judges' scorecard and Diego Lopez A didn't throw more and B didn't do more damage. Right?
What if Ortega just pulls up and does like a Volkanovski clinic on him?
Hey
You'd be
man.
like, what is happening?
I mean, dude, I don't love.
I would just
Ortega's
say
one of
MMA
those
is
guys.
fake, and then I would just end the show.
I mean, MMA is fake, as proven by Dreykus, the gay people's champion. um, Ortega's one of those guys. It's like I hate watching him on the feet, dude. He's plotting. His like his posture and his hands are pretty low, which isn't always the worst thing. But like if you're gonna have low hands and you're like a, a static target, you're like begging to get clobbered, or like you're gonna be eating some fucking serious damage. And that's
Yeah,
Ortega.
low.
He's one of those guys. He just kind
Yeah,
of like stands there. He'll
I
take a
think
shot,
people
give a shot.
I think people misunderstand the low hands. The low hands is a certain advantage that you're looking for. If you're not taking advantage of the advantage, there's no reason to have your hands in
That's
the
what
air.
I'm saying, right? Like, okay, like famous, effective, low lead hand are like Whitaker or GSP. Like they weaponized the angle of the jab from that low position, like a very as Hyde would say, like a lancing jab, in and out. They come in, bang, stick you with the jab, and then they're out. But like, and Ortega's like pretty upright, kind of, again like plodding footwork, and then it's just like, all right, I'm here. Oh, you hit me, I'll try to hit you, I guess. Like it's almost like he's like indifferent if he's the one giving damage or taking damage. And
Yeah,
he actually
yeah.
has a decent jab himself, but like he's not like, it's like he has like the posture of Strickland with none of the like defensive sensibilities of Sean Strickland, right? Like he's gonna stand upright and stand in front of you, but he's just gonna eat your punch, whereas Strickland's gonna like slip and jab you 3 times in response.
Yeah. You guys want to move on to, or did you? Yeah, you already give your percentage. You want to move on
Yep.
to Alexa Grasso and Valentina Shevchenko
I guess I'll start with why is this fight happening?
because Alexa Grasso is Mexican and Valentina, she was the goat of goats, and she gets to do what gets to do, bro. I
Right.
think it's
So
Mexican
the
Fight Week
simple
or something.
answer is like she's getting like
Mexican anniversary. What is it
she's
again?
get oh, I don't know, man. Mexico's a fake country. Who cares?
They said it was Mexico Fight Week or something. What was it? I don't
It's
know.
Uh,
it's the you're asking for the name of the card?
Yeah, the event. They said at this. The event
It's like
is like some
Noche.
Mexican fight. Yeah, what is that?
They're just like naming the event something. I have no idea. They have like
I
a
think it
name
was
for
after
it.
some Mexican holiday, right? I don't know. I don't know what's happening.
Well, Noche just means night, doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's a Mexican fight night. I don't know. I don't know if there's like a specific Mexican holiday that relates to it or whatever. Anyway, she's Mexican
UFC
and
night.
she's fighting
Maybe that's all
on
they're
this
trying to
card.
say. UFC night in
That's why she's
Spanish.
there, and that's why they're fighting what for the third time.
Yep.
Let me see here.
And maybe no, and probably, bro, we don't care about other women. These are two women that we know their names, and they're like, okay, easy fight. What do you guys think is gonna happen? Is Valentina's gonna outskill, but then like the super Mexican Grasso, she's just gonna eat it and be like, yep, too bad, I win.
Kind of what happened their first fight in particular, where like it was initially like Valentina was just kind of doing her thing. Like, oh, I'm the best women's striker. There's nothing you could do. And then I can't remember. Grasso started like countering her. And it was like, oh, okay, nice.
Yeah,
Classic
it's
tough
like a
Mexican fighter.
DDP. It's like a DDP effect. Horse. She's the horse lady. It was like, oh well, you
Oh, she's a Mexican
outstruck
fighter.
me.
They're
Okay,
unkillable.
you outstruck me. Okay, and
Yeah, now what? uh, I will say kudos to her in that first fight. She was so ready for Shevchenko's like spinning
The,
kick.
the spinning back kick, yeah.
Yeah, where like the moment she just hopped on her back like a backpack. It's like, yep, I drilled this. Like that was one of those like she drilled a specific for a specific technique she knew was coming and had like the perfect wrinkle that literally ended the fight.
Valentina is 36 years old.
Yep, not getting any younger, and she hasn't gotten a win yet. She's 0-1-1 versus Grasso.
Ooh, how we feeling about this one? I can kind of see how it's gonna go, but then again, hmm,
Yeah, I mean,
I could just see the same thing happening. I, I don't know what does Valentina like. Valentina has to get a submission because she, but or like it's gonna be a 5 rounder.
yeah, Valentina has pretty good takedowns. I know. I'm trying to think. Like she has like a good inside trip. I think is probably what she goes to the
Yeah,
well with the
she's very
most.
well rounded. She has everything.
Yeah, Grasso is just younger and really fucking hard to kill. Um, like they're looking at the stats quick. Like their last fight, um, Grasso threw 408 strikes. That is a fuck ton of strikes. But she outlanded her. Basic total strikes landed was 262 to 199. significant strikes 84-80, both edge to Grasso. Shevchenko got 4 takedowns. Grasso only had 1. Dude, I can't. Oh man, it's
I don't remember it
fucking.
looking like that. Something must have been like ground and pound.
Yeah, Shevchenko definitely won some rounds with top control. Dude, it's fucking evading me right now, but Shevchenko was like in like my memory, she's like about to like clearly win her 3rd round, and she does something really fucking dumb in like the 4th or 5th round that like Grasso like reversed her or something, and then that went from like oh, Shevchenko's about to win this round to like gets reversed, like almost finished in the end of a round, and then it became a like, oh, who won that round sort of a issue.
Yeah,
So she didn't
definitely.
get finished, but kind of both fights very similar, where it's like she's overall winning, and then like Grasso being this uh, the female horse, I suppose, just like exploits. Think like Dreykus just did to Izzy, like losing, one, you know, a round in there, and then oh, I catch you making one mistake, and I'm just gonna fucking kill you now.
Hybrid, what do you think?
I think Grasso is. So I think that Shevchenko is a finished product. And I think Grasso still has some room to grow as a fighter. And I think that she's been trying to adapt. And they're obviously, well, here's the thing also, these two know each other well because they've prepared for so many fights, and they've basically spent the last couple years just preparing for each other. Um, but so far, we have a draw, and, that submission win, it's kind of another toss up. But I just look at it like, in terms of surviving these fights and getting through the camps and everything, Shevchenko might be slowing down a little bit versus Grasso kind of getting a little bit better potentially. Not so much that
I
Shevchenko's
mean,
slowing
Grasso should
down,
be
but
peaking, right? But she's 31.
she should be reaching the crest of her abilities in these years. Shevchenko is trying to maintain what she has for the most part. I mean, not that you don't have people that have career resurgences, even like, the most famous example in the world is George Foreman in his 40s, but like, for all intents and purposes, we haven't seen anything but these two fight each other. I think that they're basically just at it like almost a perfect stalemate. And so it's almost like a war of attrition, and I look at it like maybe Grasso is getting through camps and training and more prepared. Maybe Shevchenko doesn't. Sometimes mentally at that point where you're like you're entering your late 30s, you start to think about the horizon a little bit more versus and Shevchenko's trying to hold on to something, which is like her peak at the mountain a little bit versus Grasso's really trying to like establish that she's firmly the best. So for that, I might give her a soft advantage. And I know that seems a little bit intangible, but I think we've seen these things play out in real life. So my gut says Grasso.
Yeah, I might take Grasso again. Like it's
We
just
don't
it's
we
just
don't
the
have
odds.
anything majorly concrete. It's so
Yeah,
neck and neck.
it's just the odds. If you fought twice before and it's just and you lost, fighting a third time, usually you're still gonna lose, but, unless something drastic happens. And I don't have enough intelligence on what she's doing to even quantify
I
that.
don't That's what I mean. I don't think Shevchenko is going to do something drastically different. I don't think. But I do think Grasso might. And to be honest, I don't think
Well, one fight
usually.
was a draw. My bad. One fight was a draw.
Yeah, but that draw was more like Shevchenko unable to. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like this is just a continuation of the last one.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is a
yeah, yeah.
continuation of the rematch. So it's really just a neck and neck stalemate. But I think Grasso is still at a phase in her career where she's going to be bringing more and more new things to the table. And it's not that Shevchenko can't do that. It's just that people tend to not do that in their late
Mm.
30s. So I'm going to assume Shevchenko's coming to the table with the same skill set for the most part. And Grasso is going to update a little bit more and maybe single out the edge that way. That being said, once again, this is all coming from the place that I think this is quite obviously a toss up.
Yeah. I would
Yeah, I think
agree
if
with
anything,
that.
Shevchenko, I don't think I agree she's not going to fundamentally evolve as a fighter. The only thing that is within her wherewithal realistically is more of a strategic focus, like things like, oh, do more low kicks to bring her hands down and so that you can open up strikes to the head or strategy is always on offer, but
Yeah, I see what you're
developing
saying. Yeah.
yeah, but developing fundamentally new skill sets, I agree. Like the younger fighter who's just coming into that peak, they could still be take. Also, keep in mind it's been a full year since their last fight, so that is the type of time frame that gives you that space to, theoretically, even Shevchenko herself could have been focusing on like, oh, I was deficient in this one specific exchange. I need to iron out that wrinkle that she gave me last time. But I agree that it's much more likely that Grasso was like, oh, let me, work on my boxing, like a fundamental skill that I'm going to improve and now weaponize in this third tilt with Shevchenko.
And I'll also say too, like the way that the fights went, um, Shevchenko, similarly to how we were describing the Ortega and Lopez fight, Shevchenko seems to be offensively potent and skilled and able to work her game, including with takedowns. But Grasso is able to scramble and seize opportunities in chaos. And over 5 rounds, you're able to find a little bit of chaos, especially as people fatigue. And Grasso also seems to have um, a little bit more power in her shots. And so, like, even when Shevchenko was winning, it's these rallying moments where Grasso is like kind of
Yeah,
coming
bro,
back.
this is
Even in the first fight, that's how she was losing and then just got that submission. So it's one
this
of
is
those things where
literally a
it's the
miniaturized
girl version
female
5 round fight.
version. Yeah, this is a miniaturized female version of what we saw at the last pay per view. The true martial artist tactician Izzy, in this case Shevchenko, versus just the unstoppable, hits harder than you, can't be killed horse, DDP, a la Alexa Grasso.
Is Grasso, are we considering Grasso to be a girl horse?
I think I'm ready to go
Because the
that
horse
far.
of all horses is Amanda Nunes.
Yes.
But I think that she's.
I'm almost hesitant to give Nunez the horse trait because she didn't need to rely on being part of being
I don't think you need to
proclaimed.
rely on it to have it.
I don't
Yes,
think you need to
like
rely on it. It's just it's just
you don't
so
need to
far
rely on it. Yeah,
the stereotype.
yeah. It
Um,
is a bit of a inherent reliance on it. Yeah, I agree. Like you don't
you don't have to rely
because
on it. I don't.
because
That's not
Amanda
100%.
Nunez was so potent in every domain, she really never even got. Honestly, you know what? No, I'm taking it away from her because the one time she actually got put into deep water, she kind of just folded against Pena. Like she got jabbed up and got a little tired and got fucking put away by like the ugliest jab cross I've ever seen. So I'm taking it away from Nunez personally. She was just I watched a fair amount of tennis. She was like Serena Williams. Like she just hit like a man, moved like a man, and against other women, I just couldn't do anything against that. She just fucking bullied the piss out of them.
Yeah, yeah, I feel that. But yeah, I'm taking Grasso. Uh-huh. Honestly, I could see what Kakashi said. Like Valentina could have a superior. Let's say like this is like Formula One racing, where hey, your cars are just as fast as the other ones. So the way you're gonna win is just one, you just have to not make any mistakes, and two, you need superior strategy to the other cars. Um, I don't know if you guys watch any racing, but yeah, in racing, there is these different strategies to what tires you put on the car at what time you go into the pits, what tires you put on. So, and if you fuck up your strategy, you might lose. It's uh, so so it's gonna be like that for Valentina. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
she can win on superior strategy, I think, because if you look back to one fight that was won by strategy that I think many people missed was Aljo versus what's his face
His
uh,
last
uh
fight?
um Peter Yan.
Oh yeah,
Aljo versus Peter, huge strategic fight that people just didn't understand. It's not that Aljo was that much better than Peter. No, he just had superior strategy, and not even like tactical. I'm talking strategy, like higher level than the tactical hand to hand. Where Peter takes a long time to start. He takes a long time to study people and whatever. What does he do? Take the back, don't let it go. Finish out the round. Take the back, don't let it go. Finish out the round. That way, Peter never gets to learn anything. He never gets to start. And then by the fourth and fifth round, when he actually starts to fight, it's already over. You already won 3 rounds.
yep.
Um, yeah, just didn't give him a chance to analyze, didn't give him a chance to learn at all. It took what he usually does and just turned it completely against him. Um, that was amazing strategy on his part. Um, and so yeah, I think Valentina can do some because she has so many skills that I think Gabe with a coach you could put together something. That being said, I'll take Grasso. Like, bro, I hate throwing the 55 around, but it might be a 55. Grasso.
Yeah, I'm going Grosso 55.
Yeah, that's how I feel as well.
All right, we can move on to the main event. Sean O'Malley versus MERAB. Visit Philly.
Devotion. I think we can't go forward. I think the podcast's over. The Machine.
That's the
A
nickname, right?
perfect nickname, honestly.
The Machine.
Yeah, Machine.
Machine.
So
Well,
so honestly, on this one, why don't we look up the odds real quick before we dive into it? Just because I'm curious.
what you got, Kakashi?
I am seeing ESPN's line is O'Malley minus 135, a very slight favorite.
Yeah. See, odds shark is putting Marab as a plus 110 underdog. So
Yep.
the funny thing about him being an underdog is like think about the last like couple years we've seen we've seen Merab, bro, and ever since COVID and even a little bit before that, he's been a decision machine, but he really has been a true machine. Like he
The
literally,
most dominant decisionator of all time.
yeah, honestly, and that's coming from people who grew up watching some fighters from the early 2010s, and like, I mean, to be honest, man, like he has steamrolled these people. He spanked Henry Cejudo. Like,
Yeah, again, Olympic gold medalist wrestler Cejudo. He fucking picked him up, found Mark Zuckerberg, and then fucking dropped Cejudo in front of Zuckerberg and pointed at him.
yeah, dude's
Just so
not even.
Zuckerberg would clap. Like
Dude,
he's literally
Marab isn't even fighting to kill. Marab's taking hostages.
that's such a funny way to put it.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Hilarious.
he's not
Uh,
playing war army. He's a SWAT team. He's like, yeah, we don't want to kill him. I'm just gonna gas him, and get him to surrender and just like walk him out. You know what I
Nah,
mean? Like,
he's a cop. Like he's trying to tase you.
yeah. He's
He
like
pull out the tase.
exactly, dude.
uh,
He's trying to just control you and put you in the brig. And like, um, to be honest, look, we've seen O'Malley just basically be, he's never really lost, which is hard to argue against because it's one of those guys where it's like you've just never really seen their limits. I mean, what's the toughest test we've seen with O'Malley? Probably Jan.
yep.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that was in striking exchanges. How many like hardcore grapplers has O'Malley dealt with?
Well, Sterling and Jan are the best ones.
Well, I consider Jan, obliging him mostly with striking. I consider Jan to be a striking biased guy. He can do everything, but he seems to prefer
Yes.
to strike. Aljamain Sterling is really the one where it's like, that's actually a good. It's not a bad, matchup to analyze and look up and compare to the Merab end of the equation. But he
It's
kind of
hard.
it's tough also because it's not perfect, and he sniped Aljamain. So
Yeah,
it's like
the way he caught him. I don't think if that fight happened 3 times, I don't think it ends the same way.
exactly,
Um,
yeah.
it was from Aljamain being a fucking idiot. That's what happened.
Yeah, and I
Um,
to be honest, I'm not sure Merab is well, Merab's hittable. And
no, no, no. Very hittable.
yeah, and he's also to be honest, his scoring percentage on his takedowns is also like I think I saw somewhere it's like 20-25%. He misses like the overwhelming majority of all of his takedowns. It's just the pacing. It's just the fact that he's literally a volume wrestler.
Volume wrestler is crazy.
Yeah, which is a unique thing. So the question is, I think personally, in terms of initiative, I think Marab has the initiative in the equation. Meaning, who is the person that technically needs to put the other one more on the back foot? I think it kind of actually is going to be more Marab. Um, Not that O'Malley couldn't hurt him with strikes. It's just that I think O'Malley needs to be a little bit careful he doesn't get. Um, I think Marab is going to be a lot stronger than him, and so O'Malley needs to really use his positioning and striking skills to get Marab to hesitate. And the pace that Marab is going to put on, it's like I don't think O'Malley's going to decision him. I think O'Malley has to snipe him on the way in and kill him, or Marab will eventually in the later rounds,
Yeah,
um,
he'll just wear him, grind him
will
down.
eventually grind him out. Yeah, and to be honest, I think O'Malley is very slick, but looking at what Marab did to Cejudo makes me think that if Marab does get control on him, he will still win rounds. He will still dominate him for most of the round. I think O'Malley early in the fight could maybe, weasel his way out from bottom maybe a few times. I don't think that's happening in the third, fourth, fifth round. So to be honest, despite O'Malley being the favorite, I'm a little sympathetic. I'm more sympathetic than the odds makers are to Merab, even though they're not necessarily saying Merab's a massive underdog. He's just a
No, I think the odds are fair, and from an odds maker perspective, you're looking at the champion, multiple title defenses.
yeah. They're
Yeah,
not. It's just they're saying Merab's just a step down. We're
yeah.
softly favoring, not hesitantly, but softly favoring O'Malley. I think that's fair. I'm just saying with me, I think Merab has a very, 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 very serious shot. I think O'Malley has like his hands full. This could be his toughest fight, and likely is. Um, this comes
Rob's
down
also
to
fucking hard to kill, dude. Which I don't know if it was the last pod or when we were film studying ourselves, but I brought up the point of having such outrageous cardio as a skill to the point where it's just this lopsided advantage. Like the obvious part of the advantage is Marab just he literally just as you said, volume takedowns. He just spams you with takedowns. He like does not care how bad the setup was. He does not care that he missed his first 3 shots. He just immediately firing off the 4th one and the 5th one and the 6th. Oh, I got you down. I don't care that I
yeah,
went 1 for 7. I got you down. You didn't do anything, and now I won the round. Like that's what it. Fun fact: he didn't land a single takedown versus Aldo.
Merab didn't,
He did not register a single takedown versus Aldo.
and still dominated what just from
He
wrestling
just
at
Pressure.
the age.
was a
It's pressure,
pest,
bro.
dude. Yeah, just just on top of him.
Bro,
Like just
he's a fucking defensive lineman, just pass rushing, dude.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true.
yeah, he's
It's pass.
relentless.
But
Well,
he didn't even have to touch the quarterback, just the pressure.
where
That's
I'm where I'm
how he
coming
went.
from, on this is that I think he truly is just such a machine with the pacing. And I was gonna bring up the Aldo fight because Aldo has just like exquisite takedown defense. And the fact that that pacing with Aldo, who's got tremendous striking, great counter striking, and still couldn't keep him off him, dude. I think we have to outline O'Malley's path to victory because I don't think he has the initiative. So it's like
He
what
has to kill him.
Let me tell you how this could end, since maybe it's a bit foggy for you, but here's how I can see a Sean O'Malley win very easily. Sean O'Malley's cardio is fucking top notch, and he can strike for 5 rounds straight, no issues. If Sean O'Malley, if Marab, his footwork is not there, his cage cutting is not there, and he lets Sean O'Malley run around the cage the whole time and just outstrikes the fuck out of him, it's over.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I was literally gonna say that O'Malley's path to victory is he needs to be circling away and run Marab into shots the whole time. And worst
And he
case
knows how to
scenario,
do that.
yeah, and worst case scenario, I mean, dude, he did that with Cheeto. Cheeto just chasing him.
Exactly.
Um, the only thing is you're kind of upgrading the threat level with Marab a little bit, um, in my
Yes.
opinion. But O'Malley's path to victory is play the matador and run him into shots over and over again, which I do also think he could KO him like that. It's actually easier to KO people when they're running into shots than when they're running away.
Yes.
So O'Malley could do that the same way he did to Sterling, and I think that's very legitimate. So the initiative after that layer falls down to, can Merab not get finished or not get hurt bad enough that he starts hesitating? Because here's another thing. Let's say O'Malley establishes something early on, front kicks and a nice straight right hand or something like that, that really
Knee.
keeps Merab, yeah, gets Merab a little bit hesitant. Um, O'Malley can probably find a rhythm and steamroll with that better than anyone else in the UFC.
That's
Once
what's
O'Malley,
scary.
yeah, once O'Malley finds his rhythm, I think he probably has the best rhythm. To be honest, man, because of how he looks, he he really people are we all understand he's a great striker, but he actually is incredible. Like he really is
He's
incredible
yeah,
when he finds his timing and everything.
yes. He's
So I think
actually
that's
an elite striker.
yeah,
Elite.
legitimately, man. And
I'm
I could
tempted to
see
say he has
him.
the best footwork in MMA right now.
Yeah, I could see him running Marab around like that. It comes down to, is Marab able to walk through enough of those early on where I mean, like here's another possibility for how things go. I think the first round or two is going to dictate a lot of the fight, because if Marab has early
Yeah.
success, it might slow down O'Malley and also make him a little more desperate,
Yes.
um and hesitant. And if O'Malley has early
I was gonna
success,
say conversely,
yeah, if
who
O'Malley
would you
has
say
early
is more
success,
important? Who would you say is more important to win round one?
O'Malley. I think it's more important that O'Malley wins round one for his sake, because I don't think Marab will submit you. Well, let me think about this. The reason I say O'Malley is because I think O'Malley needs to establish the threat of his striking, like the damage it can do, um, early, so Marab hesitates and doesn't feel like he can just rush him. Um, and if Marab does get a hold of him in the first round or two and holds him down, one thing that I think is a little bit underestimated is how much that takes your rhythm out of you as a striker, and it also takes a little bit of your speed away. It stiffens you up. You start squeezing to grapple and compress, and
Yeah,
then
blood.
that looseness you have does fade a little bit. People don't always realize this if you haven't sparred MMA rounds and fought a lot, but you are not, if you've just done a bunch of hard grappling rounds, you are not feeling at your best striking afterwards. You just don't, because the nature of how your body has to contract and work. This is a classic strat. The most classic example is the GSP BJ Penn fight. They did that deliberately to try and slow him down, to slow down the punches and all that. But this happens a lot. I do think this is a competitive enough fight where Merab would have a significant advantage if he could wrestle fuck him the first 2 rounds over the next 3 rounds, versus if Merab struggles in the first round or two. I don't think it's going to change him physically. It might change him psychologically, but not physically.
The issue I have here, the odds of Marab doing well in the first round and not just looking like a monkey running around is low to me.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I kind of feel that way as well. I
And
don't think
Sean's
Merab
takedown
is the guy
defense
who was going to
is
find his
decent.
rhythm in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, Sean's takedown defense is decent enough that in the first round where he's full energy, I think he can stay up on his feet just fine. So
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
gonna
most
be
of Sean's takedown defense is just not allowing you to get into a good position to get a takedown.
yeah, that and if you do grab him, he can get out. So it's
Yeah, right. And then even when you do get a decent look on him, he's like sneakily very squirrely. Like he's one of the he's got like good scrambles defensive grappling where it's like, oh, you got him down, but he'll like Granby roll and you can't pin him down, and then he just kind of
Yeah, he
wiggled
is
his way
able to
out of your
weasel his way
hands.
out.
Yeah,
He has that same the smoothness of how he moves and solves positions and fighting. exists in both his striking and grappling. It's something innate to him as an athlete, I think, similar to McGregor. McGregor, I think, surprised some people with how squirrely and scrappy he is off his back, and in the Khabib fight, he kind of showed that a little bit, even though it still wasn't enough for Khabib. But I think this fight echoes a little bit of Khabib and McGregor. Um,
I
the
agree.
the difference is that I don't think the
Marab
it
doesn't have the. He doesn't have anywhere, not even a semblance of the potency to put you out with his
y-
grappling. Like Khabib uh, was
yeah,
probably the most proficient ever at that.
I will say I don't think that's really even where it hinges though, because it's not so much that the O'Malley will get submitted that's the main threat. It's like will O'Malley just get like pinned on the ground? Um,
Uh,
and like
yeah, no, I agree, and that's all I was saying.
no,
Is
I know what you mean, but the
like
reason why I
Connor
say that
famously got put away.
the
I
reason why I say that as significant though is just because O'Malley will still have another chance even if that happens. Probably he'll just get up for the next round, but he'll be diminished.
And another important difference is Connor famously fades after 2 rounds, where I'm not going to say this is the most likely thing, but let's say it's going into the 5th round and Marab, in fact, won 3 out of 4 rounds by just applying insane pressure, wrestle fucking Sean, whatever. Sean's very much still capable of fucking crack, like almost. That would be more. That would be akin to Leon Edwards Usman one, where like he lost 3 out of 4 rounds and he needs a finish. He could, because he doesn't fade like Connor did. Like he can still apply pretty. He could like look at Cheeto. Like that was a very high volume fight, and he was fighting at, I'd say, the same pace or damn close to it in the 5th round as he was in the earlier rounds.
Yeah,
So he doesn't
that's one
fade,
thing. That's
and
one
he
thing I
still
wanted to
has that
say.
potency.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, I was about to say that Sean does not lose enthusiasm. Like he like you saw
Yeah,
in that
I mean
last
he's a
fight. Like he'll
dog.
keep. Yeah, he doesn't.
We saw in the Yan fight. He's not a pussy.
Yeah, it's not even being a pussy. He doesn't lose enthusiasm. Like sometimes you're dominating for round after round after round, and then for the 4th round, the guy finally does something to you. You know what I'm saying, or something like that.
Well,
But nah, he
Connor's a
held
front
his
runner.
enthusiasm. What's up?
Connor's a front runner.
Yeah, yeah. He
He's
held his
ultimately a
enthusiasm
bully.
for
Yeah,
all
he's
5 rounds.
ultimately a bully. I don't think I know what you mean. I don't think that Sean is a bully where if once he starts losing or struggling, he feels like I don't really want to play anymore. Um the
That is Connor.
yeah, that's McGregor for sure. The I think honestly I think honestly I'm favoring O'Malley. I think O'Malley is going to be able to run Marab into shots. And regardless of Marab's abilities, he's going to get hit in the face hard. And,
All right, we're back.
but I think that I think O'Malley is going to be able to land those shots on Marab. And regardless of Marab's pace, the guys he's fought prior, for the most part, they were not running him into a bunch of shots that he's like crushing people, or he's getting his face crushed. And I do think that he runs into that threat. Like Henry Cejudo's not really a major knockout threat to him. Peter Yan, I don't think was a major knockout threat to him. Jose Aldo, he's a great striker, but Jose Aldo hasn't been getting like tons of knockouts the past, however many years. Marlon Moraes kind of is, but funnily enough, somehow Merab got the KO on that. The last
Yeah,
time Merab fought somebody that had like KO power, it was like
Moraes is like a way worse McGregor, where he front runs and then he fades and is just like a
yeah,
shell of himself.
yeah. I think this is a really close, really interesting fight, and either got both guys have real paths to victory. But the guy I see who's better at knowing what here's what it is. The guy who's better at knowing what to do in tense calculating when it comes to tense calculated decisions is O'Malley. And I don't know if Merab can make adjustments like O'Malley does. And I think that's why I give an edge to O'Malley. Because I think out of the two potential outcomes and game plans we have for each guy, the likelihood that O'Malley will finesse his over Merab, I think, is a little higher.
I mean, at the end of the day, like to that point, like Marab is just not a multiple fighter in any sense.
Yeah.
He's just so relentless, high volume that he's just an unstoppable force. He's a freight train. The train's coming. What are you gonna do? So how that plays out is like, okay, let's say round one, Sean just kind of is pirouetting around him, like making Marab run into shots like a, he's just leading, laying a bull, running into the sides of the octagon, sort of a thing. Like it could perhaps look that ridiculous. Like, what's Marab gonna do? The same thing. He's just gonna double down. He's just gonna be like, all right, you didn't kill me. I'm just gonna keep running at you. His whole thing is like, I just need to get you to the ground once. Now, even that's not enough because, as we said, O'Malley is sneakily very squirrely and hard to pin down, even if you do get him down for a bit. Very good scrambles. And even if you do get him down, like and control the position for a couple seconds, he's still competent defensive jiu-jitsu, good at getting the fight back to the feet. But yeah, I think if Merab loses round one and can't get a takedown, he's just going to be doing effectively the same thing the whole fight. He has to win rounds. And I think on a round by round basis, I would pick him to win any given round. Even if he lost round one, I would say like, well, I'm still going to pick him, assuming the next round doesn't end in any capacity. I would always pick him to win any given round for Sean. But Sean just needs one good moment to finish him.
Yeah, I think the
Oh,
fact that Merab doesn't show a lot of I mean, he always could get one, but he doesn't show a lot of submission lethality is why I'm confident in O'Malley because we're essentially saying Merab needs to wrestle dominate him for 3 out of the 5 rounds. And O'Malley technically has 25 minutes to snipe him, which I think he can do to almost anybody, especially someone who's running
And I think
forward
he
on him.
could be clearly, like I said, he could be down 3 rounds to 1, and the whole world knows it, and he could still snipe him and put him away in the 5th round.
Yeah, and
Merab
I
doesn't
also
have
think
that. If
Merab
Merab
needs to
lost,
expose himself.
yeah, like if Merab lost 3 out of 4 rounds, it's effectively
It's
over.
over. I was gonna say Merab relies on dominating most of the fight. O'Malley just needs to win one exchange technically, and I think that Merab inherently, especially if he wants you can be technical and you can have the best cardio in the world. This doesn't mean that every single moment of the fight is a valid opening for you to do something without getting hurt. So there are also limits to how much he can use his pacing to use that as a weapon against O'Malley. There are certain times where it's like, yeah, you have the energy to do this, and maybe it would tire O'Malley out to keep having to respond to these threats. But every single time he shoots or he takes a step forward or he aggresses, you are putting yourself potentially in danger. Every single moment he is running the risk of you know, getting his head chopped off, especially coming forward. And so that's another reason why I think the pacing of Merab actually fundamentally just means O'Malley's gonna have a tremendous amount of opportunities. And I think that's another thing that he can really take advantage of. And I think that he likely will, especially when he's fresh. I don't think there's an opening that O'Malley's gonna miss. Like in terms of at least seeing it and having that on his mind.
Another thing, I mean, like we've gotten like a deeper analysis here, but stating like a brutally simple fact here. Sean is 5'11", and that's, I think his footwork is the most important ingredient to his. He's hard to hit, hard to read, and just hits guys from angles where you could tell they couldn't tell. They had no read on what they were about to be hit with. Like, he really gets people bamboozled and tripped up out there. And that's against competent strikers have a hard time with him. MERAB is not really an advanced striker in MMA terms.
Yeah.
And he's five, and so O'Malley's 5'11", MERAB's 5'6". The guys, he bullied Cejudo, but Cejudo's 5'4".
I think the thing is though,
Jan's 5'7".
I think that I think honestly one thing is we haven't really seen, like we said earlier with the Aljamain thing, we haven't seen O'Malley in a ton of exchanges where, to be honest, when you're up close, being 5'11" pressed up against the cage by a guy who's 5'6" and way stronger than you is actually probably sort of a not the best situation. It's way harder to get your hips underneath the person.
Yeah, the leverage.
It's actually
suboptimal.
it's just like it sucks being at the end of a tall person's jab if you're standing at that range. It actually sucks when when you're collapsed inward of that tall person's range. There's not a the end of someone's range is your peak range, which means that if you're at your peak range with a shorter reach than the other person, that person's no longer at their peak range. They have other difficulties they need to deal with. It's easier to punch their body. It's you can cycle through with shorter limbs. You can cycle through combinations faster because the cycling between limbs is shorter, so you can actually hit with power and then cycle into the next one. So combinations tend to be faster, and they tend to be tighter and more safe because you don't have to transport your limbs as far away from your face in between shots, and there's more limbs and problems in front of you as you throw these hooks and these punches versus with taller people, the openings are usually more spaced out, so it's easier to hit the head, easier to hit the body, and because their head is usually a little bit above you, they have to look down a little bit in order to see certain things. They have to look down at essentially everything, which means it's also easier to land that overhand. It's kind of hard to land an overhand, like a true overhand with power, when the person's below you. You just try to do it on a heavy bag, throw an overhand at a space that's like your chest height, and it just doesn't feel right. So,
the arc of
yeah,
the punch is not. It's built to be above your head.
exactly. So there's a lot of nuances in striking where you could have MERAB's build and just be a threat in a bunch of different ways. At at um at um Volkanovski did a great job of taking advantage of these traits, I think, with his build. The problem is I don't think MERAB has any of those traits whatsoever. That's just not his game. His game is just going to be utilizing the wrestling leverages, which I do think is a threat against O'Malley. If he gets O'Malley up against the cage, it's not a good place for O'Malley at all, especially if he's pinned him high. But I think O'Malley's squirrely, and I think he's smart. And I think they're prepared for this stuff. And I don't think O'Malley is taking him lightly either in that sense. I'm sure O'Malley's grappling more for this camp than he ever has in his life. So I think O'Malley is going to be the guy with adapted solutions tailored to MERAB, and I am not sure MERAB is going to have wildly adapted solutions to O'Malley. So I'm giving a solid favorite to O'Malley personally. I think he just has the tools and the brain to solve the equation.
Um, well, I guess I'll say this last, and then we can probably give our picks and end it. MERAB, if MERAB actually did the training camp and actually practiced cutting people off and practice really staying in O'Malley's face the whole time, like within like inside his not in striking range, but a little bit in elbow range. Try to stay at that elbow range and really just wrestle and do
A
inside.
little bit of Bilal versus
Yeah,
Leon
yeah,
Edwards, if you will.
some more Bilal action and stuff like that. Hey, and Sean can't. It's hard to see Sean not escaping because his footwork is so good. Merab would have to practice crowding him. Yeah, if he could, and he has the energy to keep that up for 5 rounds. Also, like it's EPO Merab, baby. Um, but yeah, like I said, there's just a strategy thing, and sometimes, man, you wish these guys really got good coaches that would see these things and really train it. But sometimes, man, you see these fighters that go into these fights, and you're like, bro, what were you training for?
I
Because
think
like,
someone like a Merab can also be cursed by like, dude, he steamrolled everyone. He steamrolled the like the who's who of the division leading up to this championship fight by
um,
just being a
uh,
one-dimensional. Yeah,
uh,
choo choo, trains coming down the tracks. TKO's Marlon
yeah,
Moraes, who was
but
a
I
contender,
think
lost for the belt not long before that.
I think some
Aldo,
I, I
Jan,
think we should be
Cejudo.
careful with um because sometimes in championship fights, people are trying to be champ, man. I think people want to bring different things to the table sometimes. So I don't want to say he's just gonna be the same way per se, where like he's not gonna really train like specifically to
I
beat
I
Sean.
I think that he will, but in defense of that, I was just gonna say where I do sympathize is I do feel that because all we're going by is expectations and probability. Who I think is gonna bring more wrinkles to their game and tools that might surprise
Yeah,
Marab slightly
tailor made for their
is
opponent
yeah,
is
is gonna
Sean.
probably be Sean. I think he's a smarter guy a little bit. Marab is absolutely going to be training and they're going to study footage and they're going to put a game plan together for O'Malley. It's just that from what we've seen so far, it doesn't seem like Marab um, has as many different tricks up his sleeve per fight than O'Malley does. And I know you could say they're subtle. I think these adjustments people make are subtle because they have their game, but sometimes it's a small technique, a small thing they're working on, a decision in terms of strategy and tactics that people change up. So a lot of these adjustments are not they're not these massive glaring things that every casual audience member is going to necessarily understand. I think that's where a lot of game planning actually exists. It's in these like little details, but the um the likelihood of who's going to bring more of those adjustments to really give themselves the edge. I'm saying more likely that more of those adjustments would be O'Malley, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree, but I think Marab has if Marab just adds like cage cutting and stuff like that to his toolbox, he could be a very very lethal guy and train like how to stay within the range of a guy that's trying to get away. I
Yeah.
think
Hey, again, Bilal just added that. Like Bilal
that's what I'm
fight
saying,
against
right?
Bilal
Yeah.
fought against Leon in a way I've just never seen him fight before.
Yeah, that's like I said. When it comes to championships, sometimes guys they're like, "This is gonna be. I have one shot at this, maybe, and I'm gonna try to present my best self." And sometimes you see those performances. Um, so I the thing is, we're calculating on Marab adding that to his arsenal, and if it's not there, he's gonna be in real trouble. So that said, I'll go 60 O'Malley and 40% chance Marab adds some cage cutting and stuff like that, and able to stay in O'Malley's face and get those takedowns over and over. I give that a 40% chance. I think that's good enough. I think.
I was gonna say 60% preference to O'Malley as well. That's how I feel.
Clean sweep it. I'll go
Yeah.
60
All right.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to. I'm not downplaying Merab. Dude is a horse.
No, like we said, they both have a major path to victory.
Yeah.
If Merab Henry Cejudo's him, like I'm not gonna be shocked. We shouldn't be. No one is. But do I think Merab is slightly fighting that maybe has a slightly uphill disadvantage? Probably, yeah, most likely when I have to predict. But at the end of the day, what happens on fight night is what happens on fight night.
Hey man, I could see Merab pulling this off. I could see Sean just. I think, bro, it seems like it's gonna be a clean sweep. Whoever guy gets to impose his game is gonna win,
Yeah.
and it's not gonna look close. I have that feeling.
With the backdoor outside shot that Sean can turn it all around with one big counter punch or kick in the 5th round.
Yeah, maybe. But
I don't think that's the most
Merab
likely outcome. Yeah, to be
Yeah.
clear, if he's down 3 rounds to 1, I'm going to say, oh, at that point going into the 5th round, this is a 95+% victory for Merab, to be clear. I'm just saying he has that ability where he could find that perfect counter, that perfect snipe, and boom, bink. Good night, Merab. That was cute. You won the first 4 rounds, and I just knocked you out.
We've never seen
Yeah,
Merab
literally.
KO'd though.
Never seen Merab what?
KO'd.
No.
Did you guys ever watch him versus Ricky Simone years ago?
No.
No.
Dude,
Ricky Simone sounds like a comedian.
Ricky Simone's actually very ridiculous. He had like an insane mullet. I think at the time he fought Merab. Anyway, it's actually Merab's last loss in 2018. Holy shit, 6 years ago. Anyway, dude, it goes to the bell, and Merab. It's like one of the weirdest fights I've ever seen. It goes to the bell. Merab like thinks he won, even though he like got like sort of put out. And then I think the ref, like it's on the books as a submission. He did not submit. He's bottom mount, and Ricky Simone is just it's like the mounted guillotine, like Ortega. Like it is a fucking deep mounted guillotine, and Merab's just kicking his feet just to show that he's not dead. He's just like a little kid, just like kicking away. It's getting slower and slower, and then the bell goes off. But he kind of lays there for a few
I
seconds.
saw that. Yeah. I saw
Yeah,
that. I remember.
they like post hoc declared it a submission. It's very weird.
Interesting. But yeah, is this a podcast?
I think so.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Tune back in for the recap. See how wrong we were or how right we were. Either way, we're gonna be here. So
Till
see you
next
guys
time.
next week.